Well, here we are. Okay, let's get started. Let's have Katya, will you do the mandala in Spanish for us?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Aquí está la gran tierra cubierta de un manto de flores e impregnado de un aroma fragante a incienso. La gran montaña y los 4 continentes adornados con las joyas del sol y la luna. En mi mente los convierto en el paraíso de un Buda y te los ofrezco todos a ti. Y que por esta noble acción, que todos podamos habitar esta nueva tierra pura. Idam Guru Rana Mandala Kamiyatayami.
Thank you. Let's go with Lydia, if you'll do the refuge for us.
Я принимаю прибежище в Будде, Дharме и Санге, пока не достигну просветления. Силой добра, которое я творю даянием, участием на этом занятии и прочем, пусть я достигну просветления во благо каждого живого существа. Я принимаю прибежище в Будде, Дharме и Санге, пока не достигну просветления. Силой добра, которое мы творим даянием, участием в этом занятии и прочем, пусть мы достигнем просветления во благо каждого живого существа. Я принимаю прибежище в Будде, Дharме и Санге, пока не достигну просветления. Силой добра, которое мы творим даянием, участием на этом занятии и прочем, пусть мы достигнем просветления во благо каждого живого существа.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with some rejoicing. And we'll start with Tatiana. What do you have to rejoice in today?
Здравствуйте. Татьяна, это я?
Is it me, Tatiana?
Yes.
Спасибо. Я рада вас всех видеть. И
I'm
что у
happy
меня
to see
есть
everyone.
здоровье присутствовать на
that I have
занятиях,
a
изучать
health
Дharму и
to
практиковать.
participate in teachings and receive the
Мама бы
teachings.
передала привет, но она почти уже заснула. Я ее укладываю спать.
My mom would say hi, but she already fall asleep.
And she hasn't even listened to me, so I couldn't put her to sleep. Just knowing I was going to be there made her fall asleep. Okay. Katrina, what do you have to rejoice in?
Не, это мы преподавали 17-й ACI, и она под него заснула. Там была тема 8-й курс. Сейчас мы проходим со студентами. Наверное, не хотела про этих слушать. Про мучающихся животных, заснула.
No, she fell asleep because we were studying ACI 17 and we were talking about hell, and she probably didn't want to listen about that, and she fell asleep.
Okay. So, Katrina, what do you have to rejoice in?
I rejoice that I talk with Lama Saranya and I make a decision to speak with my parents, and they keep calm after all the news. And this is облегчение. I feel more calm now.
Good. Well, I'm glad my wife could help.
Relief.
Yeah. It's, I have one of my many talents is to know when my wife would be better to talk to than me. So that was an example. Okay, Katya, what do you have to rejoice in?
Hi, I want to rejoice that I have the opportunity to be here with all of you, starting a new ACI. And also I want to rejoice that that we start a new project in ACI 5 Houses, the Prosperity Lab. And so Lama Sarani guide us, so I'm very happy that we can start that project.
What's the Prosperity Lab going to do?
It's going to be about practice 4 steps and do a lot of rejoice. So we are also practicing the way you teach us to rejoice, that at the beginning of the session to do rejoicing. So I'm very happy that you and Lama Sarani gave us like inspire us in some things that we use in the project.
Very good. Well, that's good to hear. I think people have to think more about rejoicing, and it's not to dismiss the bad things that are happening in your life, but it's easy to dwell on the bad instead of rejoicing. So, very good. Well, I'm glad we could be part of it. Okay, Svetlana.
Yeah, I also rejoice that we are all together studying the precious wisdom and supporting each other on our path. And also, I would like to rejoice in good qualities of my colleagues. One of my colleagues had a birthday today, and he is so modest, and he paid for lunch for all colleagues, for the colleagues in our departments, and told like, take the lunch which you didn't take usually, like enjoy it, and etc. And he is so nice and kind and supportive, and he's helped me a lot during the work, and etc. And I rejoice that my seeds are projecting such good people around, and dedicate that everyone can be happy, have a long, healthy life, and reach ultimate goal.
Great. And what'd you have for lunch?
I had a pizza with gorgonzola and I don't know how to pineapple. Not pineapple. Something that I need to check how it's called. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Some pizza, yeah.
Wow. Gorgonzola pizza. That sounds pretty good. Okay. Daria, what do you have to rejoice in?
Good morning, Lama Sumati. Oh, I rejoice. I started doing yoga and meditation every day. And every day, no, not every day, I fed the birds at work. And they even started flying in and looking in out the window, my window, and think why I didn't bring them food sometimes, and what I'm doing there in my room at the work, and sometimes kids laugh. It's a little fun for kids, these birds, because I think this bird's looking to you. What are you doing? Yes, yeah, that's right. And they believe me, but maybe. And I passed the ACI 8.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's always a big step. Okay, Shanar, what do you have to rejoice in besides having the interpretation software work?
I am rejoicing. I purchased a small birdhouse, and I'm feeding the birds in the backyard. So we had blue jays this morning, and over the weekend we had the red cardinals. So
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's really red. There's something called a vermilion flycatcher out here that is really red. The entire bird is red. It's gorgeous. Vermilion flycatcher. Okay, who's next on here? Let's see. Me? No, Lydia.
I'm rejoicing that it's approximately 4 months before Mania. So we will see. I will see you, Holy Lama, soon. And also, I rejoice that my dog is okay. We went to the doctor today. We did, I don't know how it's in English, УЗИ. Svet, could you please translate?
she did an ultrasound.
Oh.
Just just check something, and he was okay because yesterday and the day before he showed that he had some pain, and we didn't know what is it, but he is okay now.
Good, good. Okay, well, oh, Anna, you don't get it, you don't escape. What do you have to rejoice in? Love your voice.
Hello, dear Lama. Hello, dear Sangha. Can you hear me? Yes, I want to rejoice about retreats. That's so many teachers provide different retreats in different parts of our world. And I'm very glad that people who want to join can join retreats maybe with you, dear Lama Sumati, and with Lama Sarani, maybe with Venerable Gyaltse, or maybe with Peter and Maria, or maybe with somebody else. And I'm very happy that for me, just maybe 3 years ago, will be possibility only come to Diamond Mountain. But now we have so many possibilities in different countries, and I'm very happy about this. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Okay, what do I have to rejoice in? Well, I had a very pleasant trip to Tennessee. It's a wonderful part of the world. I didn't know that my host was very surprised that I would take the time and effort to go and see him. So I made him quite happy, and that's my goal. We did a Zoom call with 2 colonels that I know from the Minuteman book, and both of them were very grateful for my book and thanked me very sweetly for having written it. So that was quite unexpected and quite nice. So what else is going on here? I'm waiting for my bike to appear so I can start exercising again. And I've started some calisthenic-like exercises to get some body strength back. What else? Oh, we have a biofeedback machine system, instrumentation that we're purchasing, and I'm going to start devoting quite a bit of my time to understand the biofeedback equipment, and we'll use it on each other for a while. You can do remote biofeedback, so it's a little bit outside the realm of my traditional belief in modern medicine, but I know that acupuncture works very well on me, so there's no reason this particular equipment won't be able to help. But if it doesn't help me, that's okay, as long as it's helping others. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to take quite a bit of my time. So I've come up with another article project, which I haven't shared with my wife yet. So it depends on whether the Air Force declassifies some material for me. So I'm hoping that will show up one of these days. My wife had her 72nd birthday in early April. That was pretty nice. My sisters are coming out for my birthday in May, so that'll be nice. So I still wake up thinking I could be cured of Parkinson's. And actually, a week or so ago, I had about, 5 minutes where I thought maybe I'd been cured. I got up out of bed and was walking pretty normally and didn't have any tremor, but unfortunately it wasn't true. So, okay. Well, I'm going to just try something out here. I'm going to suggest we review some of the homework questions before we get into the new class. So I'm not going to ask you to answer the homework questions. These homeworks were pretty involved. Well, maybe I will. Maybe I'll make an exception. We'll have Katya. So we're going to go through the answers and discuss them. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. I'll do my best to clarify. So the first one is, describe the view of what the view of destruction is, and then explain the role realizing emptiness plays in eliminating it. Then explain how eliminating this view allows us to achieve nirvana. Okay, so the view of destruction, jikta, holds that me and mine have some nature of their own. So it's a belief that things exist from their own side. It holds, for example, the feelings and things that cause them, pleasant and unpleasant objects, are not just our projections forced on us by our past karma. Realizing emptiness allows us to see that no other object has any nature of its own, rather that whatever nature it seems to have is a perception forced upon us by our past deeds. When we see this fact as a result of the direct perception of emptiness, then we can truly eliminate negative emotions and deeds, and thus have the view of destruction where we're destroying our ignorance. That's as we're going to be discussing in this course. It's a difficult belief to get rid of because it's so habitual. We've lived it for. I tend to think that the teachings we do get now are this lifetime, and we have to remember we've been getting teachings for countless lifetimes, and we've had the habit of things are self-existent for countless lifetimes. So merely knowing now that it's not true doesn't mean in this life we can destroy it unless we go through Tantra. So, okay, give 3 reasons why it's not necessary for the perfections of giving and other 4 to come before one has a realization of emptiness. As Master Shankarashita has pointed out, the first 5 perfections do not need to come before one can have a realization of emptiness of the type that comes either through learning or simply contemplating it. So I kind of look at it this way. Your level of understanding the 6 perfections is a reflection, it reflects on how quickly you can see the direct perception of emptiness. So that's the first one. These 5 perfections do not have to come before one gains a deep experience and spiritual conviction of emptiness. Because if this were the case, they would also have to come before one gained a deep experience and conviction about the fact of impermanence. So again, we can't, as you know, we can't perfect the 6 perfections. Only a Buddha can practice those perfectly. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And it doesn't mean we should get discouraged when we can't get the perfection of giving to work properly. They don't have to come before one gains special insight which comes from meditation, because the persons of the 2 lower tracks are able to realize thusness without them coming first. So I think the bottom line is, no, you can't perfect the 6 perfections without becoming enlightened. But you can get very close. And for our purposes, to generate the karma we want, it's important to feel that we can do the perfections, and they can work and contribute to our growth as a Buddhist. Why then do the opening line to the 9th chapter of the guide say all those branches were stated by the able ones to be for the purpose of wisdom? Well, it talks about getting masses of merit. I look at it this way: the first five perfections are step-by-step elimination of the obstacles to the sixth, the perfection of wisdom. As we say, the order is important. In order to have you perfect the perfection of giving so that you no longer are attached or understand where things come from. Then if you understand where things come from, you don't do something stupid, break your morality to get it, and on up. So by the time the end of the 5th, you've set the conditions and eliminated the distractions so that you can have the perfection of wisdom. Okay, that's it for the... Okay, so here we go. Kinds of people and the wrong ideas about emptiness. Necessary conditions for the direct perception. Connect purely and deeply with a qualified teacher. Study under them, serve them by applying what you've learned to your behavior. I think that's something that many students don't think is as important as attending the teaching. You're not going to get anywhere if you attend a teaching but don't practice what your Lama's transmitting to you. It's easy to collect. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy. Some students I know collect teachings. They've gone to every one of His Holiness's teachings, every one of Geshe Michael's, etc., etc. But they don't really practice what they've been taught. His Holiness once mentioned that, what's the actor's name? What is the male actor that is a close student of Geshe, His Holiness? What is his name? Anyway, he said once in a teaching we were at that he was glad that this student was finally practicing what he'd been taught, Richard Gere, what he'd been taught by His Holiness. So it warms my heart greatly when I see all of you practicing what we've taught and confessing and struggling with it. There's nothing wrong with the struggle of the Dharma. That shows you're trying hard and you're working hard. Study emptiness intellectually through reading, classes, hours and hours, every chance you get. Must be meditating regularly. I still have trouble meditating. I'm continuing to try, but it's a habit I need to get back into, but it is problematic with my tremor. Get instructions on Cheech Hedrock on how our mind makes mental images. We'll be doing that. And you'll find, if you open your mind and accept the little things in life as indications on how well you're doing, I think you'll find you're making rapid progress. You begin to have profound realizations about the nature of impermanence, the subtle aspects. Other spiritual realizations come to you fairly rapidly. So my wife and I practice what we call getting a sign. So what would be an example of getting a sign? Oh, what happened in 3-year retreat? I think I may have told you. I saw a white moth or butterfly outside in the spring. And I said, if karma and emptiness are true, this moth will land on my shoulder. And it did. So that was an act of truth on my part. It was also looking for a sign that what I was practicing was correct. Now, you could say the moth just followed my finger to my shoulder. Yeah, if you want to say that, that's up to you. But I felt it was an act of truth, and that moth flew there because my karma ripening to see that this was all really true. One thing I will say, and I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. If you have a realization that really strikes you, be careful who you tell it to. I told one of the fellow retreaters that this had happened, and she said, it's no big deal. And that kind of took the joy out of it for me. So I don't usually tell people anymore when I have something like that. I tell my wife, but be careful who you tell. One day you have the direction of the first direct perception of dependent origination. And we're familiar with this. You start to heat a pot of water when you suddenly see, in quotes, that all you really are seeing are colors and shapes. And you realize that all your eye can do is see colors and shapes. Then you see these colors and shapes get transmitted to your mind. And now this is interesting. I was about to say trigger a karmic seed, but if that was true, it would be coming from the object, the subject, to me. So this is again where it gets a little squirrely for me. If the eye is looking at colors and shapes, they had to come from my karma. So my karma is projecting colors and shapes. And I happen to make that moment into a pot of tea, of hot water. Colors and shapes like that could come later in the day. I could be getting ready to cook dinner, and I'd see a pot on the stove that has nothing to do with making tea. So, as I've said before, we like to say our karma ripens, then we see it. Don't get mired in the what's going on with the data outside, the data that appears to be outside. It's very clearly karma ripening to have the colors and shapes be available to be construed as a pot for cooking dinner or a teapot for cooking hot or making hot water. Keshe Michael has answered the question directly. The colors and shapes are also your karma ripening. So I put that on the back burner. It comes forward every once in a while, and I stop and think and try and get an example. Then I think I have one. I go to my lovely wife, and she says, not so much. So what we've just described, is it the direct perception of emptiness? No. It is a direct perception of dependent origination, or as Geshe likes to call it now, dependent events. When you have the direct perception of dependent events, you have figured out deceptive reality. And this is a peak moment in your existence. Without the direct perception of dependent origination, you're not going to have your first direct perception of emptiness. Now, I've had a couple of instances where I've thought, unfortunately I wasn't correct, that I'd had direct perception of events. I think I've told you about that time I was going to South Africa and I was looking for the headlamp I usually take on aircraft with me, and I couldn't find it. So I went out and bought another one, went on my journey, came back, and there it was, sitting in the center console of my truck. So my mind was dependently originating, expecting, knew that my headlamp had a certain color and shape, but it was hidden by the band. So I was looking for a black lamp with the LEDs, and that was covered by the strap. So it was there, I just wasn't looking at it correctly. What is different now is you've recognized the concept of the deceptive reality, the idea that we are born with this innate belief in things being self-existent. And every time I get discouraged that I can't get out of that habit, I just think there's been millions of lifetimes, if not billions, where I've had that, I've developed this, so much karma to see it this way. It's going to take some powerful work, and that's what deep meditation and these teachings give us, the tools to destroy those thousands, eons of habit and move on in our path. So then you go and meditate in the temple and have the direct perception of emptiness. And just after the direct perception of emptiness, you have the direct perception of bodhicitta, which Geshe Michael described as an intense burst of energy from your heart. It's very powerful, and you know you'll be spending every moment of every day of the rest of your life in the service of others. You know the truth of the Dharma. You know the contents are absolutely true, and you resolve to spend the rest of your life in the recovery and translation of these texts. So, having had the direct perception of emptiness, you become one of two kinds of people in this world. Those that have had the direct perception of emptiness, which are usually called realized beings, and those who have not, which are called ordinary beings. In Tibetan, those who have not yet are called Soso Kewu, and someone who's had the direct perception of emptiness is called an Arya in Sanskrit, or a Pakpa in Tibetan. You may have heard the term stream enterer. This is the first step of being on your way out of samsara, seeing emptiness directly and becoming an Arya. So what are we talking about, a stream enterer? That's referring to this mind stream, the flow of karma that's ripening continually. Is the direct perception of emptiness the same for any and every being? What do you think? Yes? Why? Anybody want to offer me why it's the same for every being? Go ahead, Svetlana.
Maybe because it's an ultimate reality.
Right. Yeah, but what's the ultimate reality for a cockroach versus a human? The only difference is not in the direct perception of emptiness, it is what in your heart is in your heart during the process. So if I'm a mind-only student and I just want to get to nirvana, then I have the direct perception of emptiness just like you do, except I don't have bodhicitta in my heart. If I have bodhicitta in my heart, then the direct perception of emptiness kicks me up into the Bodhisattva bhumis and on my way to total enlightenment. But the direct perception of emptiness itself, the actual event, is the same for everybody. So let's review some wrong ideas about emptiness. Emptiness means nothingness or a black void. Kesho says this is too stupid to discuss. That's pretty frank. Emptiness is the absence of things, pretending things aren't really there. Your cup of tea or coffee, your yelling boss, your boyfriend or girlfriend. The cup of tea or coffee exists on its own side. This one's obviously also absurd. Everything is empty is so I can do whatever I want, nothing matters. Morality is not important. This is the worst one of all. These ideas of emptiness are not even considered to be amongst the legitimate wrong views. But you think about it, that's the kind of wrong view we have. So to me, the 6 perfections, once I learned about them, gave me a manual for how to break my habit of seeing things as self-existent, and proving to me constantly that things are not self-existent. One of the proofs I actually had this weekend, the couple I was staying with are both highly competitive individuals. And so it's difficult for one of them to be wrong, and especially when there's a guest there. So countless times they get into these little tiny arguments of who was right. And they also had to have the last word. And it was kind of funny to listen to them mutter as they walked away from the argument, having the last word. It's really important to be able to say to yourself and to others that you're wrong or you're misunderstood. It's one of the things in human nature that people don't like to do that. They don't want to admit they were wrong. But I think, for me, it's very powerful because it reinforces in my mind that I have a lot to learn still, which I think is one of the problems with some Buddhist students. They get to the point where their study seems to be complete, and except for their meditation, they're pretty ready to go. And that to me indicates they aren't ready to go. So, the schools of ancient India are not like the colleges in the United States. The schools is a term used for the 4 levels of people's understanding of emptiness. one of the schools has 2 factions, so there are a total of 5 levels of the understanding of emptiness. Now, I must admit I'm one of those students that would prefer not to hear the 4 that don't work. I want to know the 5th one that works so I can focus on that. And the point Lord Buddha was making by teaching it this way was you need to take your mind through the various levels of the wrong way of thinking, which is how you think. Well, in my case, how I think about emptiness. And each level I go, I get a little bit better of understanding of the concept of emptiness. And then when I get to the end, I have a pretty firm grasp of the concept. So teaching the wrong way, I shouldn't say wrong, the less complete way is a great way to get us to understanding it. So, functionalist schools, Hinayana, Mahayana. The mind only is a functionalist school, but it's the Mahayana track. The independent school, which is the independent Madhyamika middle way, Svatantrika, and the implication school, Prasangika, Madhyamika Prasangika. Why is it called the implication school? Come on, you guys know this. What are the Madhyamika Prasangika known for? Their sarcastic approach to answering, to combating the lower schools. So the implication is what you believe lower school implies this, and that's absurd. The independent school, remember why the independent school is called that? They think 50% of the object is self-existent. They don't really use that term, but 50% of the object is coming from its own side, which is, of course, still absurd. The middle way is called that because it's between the 2 extremes. Can someone here give me the 2 extremes it's in the middle of? Lydia. What are the 2 extremes?
First extreme that things exist like we think they exist from their own side. I mean, if I don't see emptiness. And the second, if it's not true, then nothing exists at all.
Okay, and where does morality fit into that?
That everything is our projection, but it exists.
Well, I'm looking slightly. Emptiness means nothing exists at all, so it doesn't matter what I do. And thinking that things just exist as they appear, self-existently, also means it doesn't matter what I do. If they're out there self-existently, then I don't make them, so I don't have to worry about my morality. So Master Shantideva takes a look at the functionalist and Madhyamika concepts of emptiness. Come on, there we go, functionalist. A thing that functions or does something is real. Another term is really exists truly by definition from its own side. This is slightly different than the idea of self-existent, but it still is incorrect. If things do exist, they must have a nature of their own. If things do not have any nature of their own, they can't exist at all. So it's important, we're going through terms that we use later on, so we need to be sure we understand what the terms mean. The functionalists are saying that deceptive and ultimate truth cannot coexist. That is incorrect. Ultimate reality does exist with deceptive reality without any problem. The fact that things are empty of self-existence does not mean they do not exist. It means they do not exist in the way we think they do. It's really important to remember. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It means they do not exist in the way they think the way we think they do. So the middle way says nothing has any nature of its own. Things do exist, but only in dependence on our mental projections, which are forced on you by our karma. So they do. When we say they do exist, the functionalists say, well, if they exist, then you're agreeing with us. We're saying they exist in a way that they exist in dependence of karma, not just being out there coming at us. So back to the pot on the stove. It functions to make hot water for tea, so according to the functionalists, it truly exists. It has a nature of its own. According to the Majjhimika Prasangika, our eyes and octave nerve transmit the image of colors and shapes to our mind, which due to karma projects pot. Now we say the cockroach would be seeing the same steel and glass pot, but they don't have a karma for seeing pot. They have the karma for something hot that could kill them. I have trouble with that because that's confusing me on if the cockroach projecting the same, is the cockroach's karma the same as mine to see a steel pot, see the colors and shapes of a steel pot and construe them to be dangerous, whereas I construe them to be in a teapot? How would a cockroach even know to make something with have the karma assemble the data into a steel pot? And that's where my mistake is. My mistake is thinking the steel pot is self-existently out there, and that's all that can be generated by those colors and shapes. But if a cockroach sees the colors and shapes of a silver circle, silver shape, and a black handle, I don't know what he or she, the cockroach, is projecting. But it seems to me it's a bit of a stretch to think that they're seeing, they're ripening the object out there into a very similar color and object. So that's my mistake. My mistake is basically saying the color and shape is out there independent of my karma. So the cockroach sees the same colors and shapes differently. And I'm reasonably sure that that's not true. So how do we share the karma for seeing colors and shapes? And maybe at the risk of saying something blasphemous, maybe there's a fifth karmic law that covers the colors and shapes. Because that seems to me to be neutral karma. Neutral karma is projecting the multitude of things that can be made due to karma ripening. So I'm still struggling with that. The functions are correct. All beings observing the pot would identify it as a pot and makes hot water for tea. So again, what is the cockroach? Is the cockroach assembling the same colors and shapes? I don't think so. because the cockroach is on the surface of the stove, and he or she doesn't know they're on the surface of the stove. So how could we make that work? So my karma ripens to have colors and shapes which I interpret into a hot water pot. A cockroach has the karma to ripen to see colors and shapes which appear as something threatening to it, like because it's hot and could burn it. So I think it's a fallacy to say that cockroach is taking the colors and shapes and making them into a pot. Because I don't think a cockroach has any concept of what a pot is. So at that point, I leave it and I just take that to mean things are not self-existent. Your karma forces you to have the particular perceptions. A different type of being could be looking at the same colors and shapes and see something totally different. Geshe describes the colors and shapes as a silver disc and a black handle. And the implication is that the cockroach sees the same colors and shapes, which to me would mean it's independent of the karma, which makes it self-existent. So I'm continue to struggle with this. It doesn't affect my belief in karma and emptiness. It doesn't affect my belief in the Dharma being true. It's just that faint obstacle to omniscience. And that's what I mean by the obstacle to omniscience. It's the faint belief when you get up to that point in your spiritual path that you have to overcome that, well, really things are just a little bit self-existent. That prevents you, until you get over that subtle obstacle to omniscience, you cannot become totally enlightened. Okay. If you understand this, you can become totally enlightened. If you understand that things are coming from your projections, forced on you by your karma, and you develop the habit of getting rid of that thought to where you can see emptiness directly, then you're on your way. So next we talk about the illusion. This is a battle with the functionalists because they aren't listening carefully. That's like my mom saying, "You're not listening carefully, David. I told you to do this and you didn't." So functionalists say if things have no nature of their own, how can good deeds create good karma? If offering flowers to the altar, the flowers have no nature, they are an illusion, how can good karma come from offering something with no nature of its own? Middle Way says good or bad deeds are like an illusion, in that they are like an illusion. Like an illusion. They're not an illusion, they're like an illusion. In that the person doing them, the deed itself, and the object of the deed, the three spheres, do not exist in the way you think they exist, independent of your own projections forced on you by your karma. It's like an illusion, and the functionalists say it is an illusion, and they leave those words out. These projections work very well to keep you in samsara, or produce the bodies of a Buddha. Functionalists say if a person is like an illusion, then how can an illusion with no nature take rebirth? Who or what could take rebirth? Gyaltsab says, you're being silly, functionalists. We are not saying the I, me doesn't exist. We're saying it exists as a projection forced by your karma. Karma continues to ripen after this body dies, and those projections will make your new body, which is also like an illusion. It's really important. It's not the illusion. It's like the illusion, like an illusion. When we say illusion, I mean something looks like it's happening one way when it's really happening, working on it in a separate way. For instance, how many of you have seen a spinning wheel on a car that has a fancy hubcap? It looks like it's rotating. You know the car's going this way, but the wheel looks like it's rotating the opposite. It means there's an optical effect that is tricking the mind. So an illusion, because it really isn't going backward. It's like an illusion that it's going backward. Things look like they exist from their own side, which is the illusion, when they're dependent on their karma and do exist because of that, but not from their own side. So lastly, we talk about natural and real nirvana. Functional. So you guys apparently think the Buddha is still suffering because you say the Buddha is still in samsara, the realm of suffering. Majjhimika say, what are you talking about? Functional say, you say that everything is empty and natural nirvana is the emptiness of all objects. You said everything in samsara has natural nirvana. So, samsara and natural nirvana must be the same thing. Majjhimika, you don't get it. Natural nirvana means the emptiness of all things. It's not a kind of nirvana. Therefore, Lord Buddha cannot be in natural nirvana. Samsara has natural nirvana, meaning samsara is itself empty. And thank goodness, because if this wasn't true, we couldn't change into a Buddha, paradise. If things in suffering realms come from themselves, independent of anything else, they can never be changed. Everything has natural nirvana. Everything is empty of any self-nature, which means your karma can change everything and anything. So that's it for this class. I was thinking of putting class 3 together with this one, but I don't like to double up the homeworks and the reading. So we'll do class 3 on Monday. So we'll be getting out of the mind school reasonably quickly, thank goodness, because it's hard to teach. Let's dedicate. O Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, please listen to what I now say. Just as all the previous Sugatas generated the mind of enlightenment and practice in accordance with Bodhisattva precept, so shall I too, in order to benefit all that live, give birth to bodhicitta and follow its precept. By the pureness of the power of my intentions, by the power of the blessings of those gone thus, by the power of the realm of emptiness, may all the goals that I may have and all my wishes, whatever they may be, come true with perfect ease. In all my lives may I never live apart from my perfect lamas, may I bask in the glory of the Dharma, may I fulfill perfectly every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. Thank you for the opportunity to teach you all this. It's going over what we believe we know already, and we do have in the back of our mind, but we still have in the front of our mind all these habits. And that's, you acquired a habit, and if you acquired a habit, you can break the habit. It's just a matter of enough mental strength to do so. I've told my wife, and I I made this pact with my friend Monty, who I went and visited. I'm going to lose 20 pounds before Armenia. And I'm going to monitor this carefully with Monty and see that he loses weight too. Which means I'm going to be perpetually hungry. When I start on a diet, I stop and realize, well, I went out and had a handful of almonds, and then I had some potato chips later on, and then I had this and that. When I diet, I don't have those things. And I don't realize until I go on a diet just how much I consume between meals. So, we'll see if it works. Plus diet plus exercise, obviously. So, I tried running again recently, Kachin. I don't go anywhere. When I run in place. So, I guess that's another form of exercise. I feel pretty stupid doing it. Okay, so Monday, though you can send the slides to everybody. Did I send you the slides for class 1? I didn't. Okay, I will take care of that right now. Okay. We'll see ya.